Welcome in, everyone, to the Crowded Booth here on a Wednesday evening. We welcome you in, talking a little college football. Spring practice has ramped up across the country, and it's time for some of our final rankings. The top programs entering 2025. Who are they, and why are they there? All that and more on tonight's episode of the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
Welcome in, everyone, to the Crowded Booth here on a Wednesday evening. My name is Bryce Koon alongside Ralph Leary and Will Manis. Make sure you like the video if you're watching over on YouTube, and also check us out on all those podcast platforms as well. What a comment. Will dropping a Mondo Duke is the technical difficulty. No? Yeah, what a comment.
Well,
That's just... Well, I wasn't expecting to start off the show with that. Will, any comments from you on the alleged
Mondo Duke?
What's a Mondo Duke?
I guess he means like a Mondo on Duke. I don't know.
You don't know what a Mondo Duke is?
I'm guessing he means you're taking a number two.
A number two, a heavy number two.
You were taking the Browns to the Super Bowl.
I think it's best if we don't get into that.
Probably the best response to that.
That's probably.
And look, Gavin's there right there for you.
Yeah. That's true. I think it's best we don't get into that. Hey, welcome in. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Fellas, how we doing on this fine Wednesday evening? Will, we didn't do the show on Monday because you guys had the primetime game, the primetime slot over there on ESPN Plus on Monday night. So how did you guys fare, and what happened on the baseball diamond?
Not too good. Not too good. We did something that's pretty tough to do. Yep, that's probably the best way to put it. I think it's best if we don't get into that. It was actually impressive. We allowed 4 runs before we allowed a hit. So that's tough to do. Not every team can do that. But we found a way to do that.
Hey, you find a way. You find a way to win, and you find creative ways to lose.
You know,
Reggie, that's
yeah, you might catch a charge saying that.
Chris Hansen on the way. That's all I gotta say.
No, 2. It's been back-to-back losses. It's time to change.
They're not allowed to be here tonight. 2 losses in a row.
Oh,
there they are.
Oh boy, here we go.
Yikes!
Here we go.
It started.
Johnny, good question. Is Will in the hot seat? I don't think so. I think that there would have to be some sort of expectation, and the problem is there's not really an expectation from management. So, yeah,
as long as they have fun, right, Will?
As long as they're having fun.
No.
As long as Will don't kill a kid, we'll be all right.
That is also true. I do want to say this. You know how else you can have fun, fellas? By watching March Madness.
Very true.
Well,
hold on. You also cannot have fun if you're a top-ranked team that could possibly lose in the first round.
That is true. You're right about that. I will give you that. But it does allow us an opportunity to talk about our newest sponsor here throughout March Madness, because March Madness is here, and every single game is a chance to cash in. Listen, we are excited to partner with MyBookie. If you could tell throughout the college football season, we are absolute. I mean, we're amazing at this, and Will had an unbelievable season this past fall. If you don't go back and watch the shows, just don't worry about that part. Just take me for my word. Unbelievable season for Will. After winning the title in 2023, he backed that up with just a monumental performance in 24. I believe that you could catch me on a week where I'm just making some heinous calls, but it's a good reason why MyBookie said, "Hey, let's help out those guys." So MyBookie is running a deal right now where you can get Bet and Get is back to sweeten the deal right in time for March Madness. Essentially, all you have to do is you place a cash bet on March Madness, and you get a surprise reward. It can be free bets, it can be cash back, bonus chips. You don't ever know, and that's part of the excitement of playing the game. So, like Ralph said, whether it's the number 1 seed rolling or an underdog shocking the world, can Will Wade go out with a bang with McNeese State? I'll say this. Smart bettors know that the real money is made one game at a time. So you can sign up now and make sure fellas, I get you the correct code here because that's be the last thing we'd want. It's MM50, essentially March Madness 50, and you can boost that bankroll on your deposit bonus. Just make sure to let them know that we sent you over at the Crowded Booth, so you can bet on any game, every game from anywhere, only with MyBookie. So good time to hang out with them, and it'll be interesting. Maxwell made millions off these bets. If you bet against us this year, I would like to go back and we haven't seen Dr. Bob in a while. I hope he's okay. But I do hope that
Neighbor. What do you mean you hope he's okay?
I haven't checked in on him. He lives, I think I drove past his neighborhood today. All those things being said, I would like to know what our overall tally is. You know what I mean? Like in terms of like our records over the past 2 years we've been doing this now. Like what is our overall record? It can't be awful, right? Like it can't be the worst thing.
I mean, I had a pretty good year last year. The year before wasn't so much better, but yeah.
Wellness check on Dr. Bob. The irony of that. Is gambling a sin? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I will say this though. I do believe that it's best we don't get into that. In the words of Gavin. All right, fellas, we're talking top college football programs entering 2025. Fellas, I think we had some different criteria for all of this. I guess when I used the word, we were talking about this show, when I use the word program, like I don't just mean what happened in 2024. So fresh off of that. Now, could Ohio State be your leading team and your leading program, even though they won the national title? Sure. Yes. I don't think anyone's going to have TCU in here. I don't think that anyone's going to have Arizona State in here in terms of where they're going. This is kind of what have you done over the past 3 to 5 years? Where are you at in recruiting? What's the status of your head coach? Is that something you feel like is gaining traction? And true, I mean, probably 5-6 years ago, we would have talked about facilities, probably talking about NIL resources now. What are the NIL resources like at your program? Do you feel like that's building? Are you not just competitive, but are you amongst the top? And I dare say, I think every single one of our programs, we could all put in the category of big spenders. Like they, at one point or time over the past, since NIL has been valid, legal, they've been big spenders, and they probably were before that anyways. So with that being said, let's dive right in. Ralph, I believe that you were first here on the board. So we're going to dive into yours. The top 10 college football programs. That's Will. I'm sorry. I lied. Will goes first. So here's the top 5 programs. Will, you can roll through it for our audio listeners. I apologize for the people that have to look at the Oregon in yellow. It's blinding. We'll have to fire our intern for that one, but that's okay. So Will, walk us through your top 10 and kind of where you landed on these teams.
Yeah, so number 1, I have Georgia. Number 2, Ohio State. Number 3, Notre Dame. Number 4, Texas. Number 5, Oregon. Number 6, Clemson. Number 7, Penn State. Number 8, Alabama. Number 9, Tennessee. Number 10, Ole Miss. I mean, I place a heavy emphasis on play on the field. But like you, I really took like the last 5 years. Really, it's about recruiting and it's about results on the field. And these 10 programs, I mean, I don't know that you can really argue. I mean, if we were going to tier rank the entire country, none of these would be below tier 2. I think probably the most shocking one, which is not really a shock. I mean, it is my list, but Notre Dame at number 3. I mean, just being independent as they are, not being part of a conference, and even just to be in the top 10, no matter where you put them, I think is a great accomplishment to Brian Kelly and to Marcus Freeman, both of those, their head coaches, especially Marcus Freeman, to not just keep Notre Dame where Brian Kelly had them, but I would say take them a step further with playoff victories under his belt now. I think we all pretty much have the same top 10, so I don't feel the need to go in depth into all of them.
No, that's fine. Yeah,
but I had to include Ole Miss in this list because, like I've said many times, what Lane Kiffin is doing at Ole Miss has not been done ever at Ole Miss. The closest we have to it is the 1960s. So Ole Miss definitely has to make the top 10. I have them at 10 just because they fall off toward the end of the season. And they're still they're still 1 or 2 steps short of their goal, which is going to win the SEC, make the playoff, and win a playoff game. But they have to be in the top 10.
Yeah. No, I like that. I mean, I think when you look at, and we can talk about ours here in a second, so I don't have any major questions, but I think we'll do is that we do have some questions in the chat about it. So Johnny says, and maybe we can answer this later. I'm gonna move you here. Well, 1 second. I'm gonna move you right here so we can see Will as he answers this. That was per Ralph's request. Where is LSU on this list? Will, you can answer. I mean, do you have them just sitting outside the top 10? I mean, where do you look at them here?
10.5.
I mean, they're definitely right outside the top 10. I think the NIL is not at the level of these other 10 programs, maybe except Clemson, because we don't think of Clemson as a huge spender in NIL, but they've won. LSU, they played for the SEC. Brian Kelly's first year, 3 years ago. Albeit in maybe the weakest SEC West of recent history, although that, not his fault. Kind of not really fair to use that against him, but I have him right outside the top 10. I think under Brian Kelly, LSU is, it's hard to say this because they are still really good, maybe trending in the wrong direction, trending more away from the top 10 than more towards the top 10, but I still think Brian Kelly's a really good coach. I think he can get it turned around. I think there's been a lot of things more than just the play on the field that he's had to learn about at LSU. Obviously, a completely different culture than he's been a part of at the different places he's been.
Mm-hmm.
The landscape is totally different. The competition is totally different on and off the field, and he's just had to take time to adjust. But I think last year was real concerning. Some of those games, especially the second half of the year, felt like LSU gave some games away. And recruiting, I mean, you lose the number 1 quarterback. That's not a good look for your recruiting class, albeit Bryce Underwood gets the most obscene NIL deal ever. Not withholding that, but just not being able to hold on to that is a concern. You lose a quarterback in a recruiting class, you're always worried what's the rest of the class going to do. You did a nice job keeping it together, but I don't know. For me, they're kind of moving away from the top 10 rather than toward it.
Yeah, that NIL deal is just wild. That's unprecedented. Reggie asked, well, he has some other comments, but we're not going to put up there. But he does ask. He goes, Notre Dame is high in his opinion over Texas. He asked, and I guess, and well, I'll let you just. You could argue Texas has been back-to-back semifinals, but Notre Dame does feel like a freight train right now, kind of.
They do. I mean, it's hard to see Notre Dame having a bad year or taking a step back from 2024. Yes, I know Riley Leonard is gone, but don't know his name, of course. You know me, I can never remember names. Backup quarterback.
TJ Carr, possibly.
Or Minchie.
Possibly.
Or I mean Angeli.
Angeli was the one I was thinking of. He looked good in the playoffs. So I think Notre Dame's in a good spot there. And with Marcus Freeman, their defense is going to be good. I know Arch Manning set to step in for Texas, but I have to see. Quinn Ewers was really good. Can Arch Manning live up to that? He obviously has the name, the pedigree to do it, but he's got to go out there and do it. And when he has gotten into games, like Louisiana Monroe, that I'm not moved by that performance. The deer in the headlights look against Georgia both times concerns me. And the fact in other big games, he wasn't asked to throw a lot, so we haven't seen a lot of him. So just for me, Notre Dame is just a notch ahead of Texas.
Yeah, I think that I was looking this up too, Notre Dame and what they lost. There's talent in terms of recruiting rankings there. I don't know if they, and this is like, I'm saying this like genuinely, I don't know if they've stacked enough recruiting classes to be able to do kind of like what Alabama used to do and Georgia did like in the early 2020s, late 2010s. I don't know. I mean, I still think they're going to be really good. Gavin says they also lost Al Golden. So that's going to be a big loss for the
That's
defense.
that's going to be a big loss.
So I don't know. Other than that, I like the list.
I know what Gavin's trying to do here. Al Golden's a really good defensive coordinator.
I like Al. Where did he go again?
I didn't even know they lost him.
Did they lose him really?
Yeah, he's the DC for the Bengals in the NFL now. That's right.
That's right.
Oh,
That's right. Yeah. So Reggie says, hot take, Notre Dame misses the playoff, 8-9 win team. It could be that. I mean, Riley Leonard was such a big driving force of what they did, and a gamer when you lose a guy like that, it could be interesting. I don't know. It could be.
9 wins probably gets Notre Dame in the playoff, depending on what the teams around them do.
Depends. Yeah, 9-3 is like probably the fringe, like the cut. If you get 9-3, you got a chance, depending on what happens. Gavin says, does Notre Dame have talent stacked at the right positions? I remember when we did the show with the guy from Irish Breakdown, when I did it before the national championship game, he was talking about like there's a lot of people that are, they don't know, but Notre Dame fans know, like apparently their secondary's loaded, and you got to see that because they had a lot of injuries in the back end of the defense this year, and those guys had to play. So that's something that obviously could matter in this. And then two, with it, I think it's also something where I think they're going to be good. If Notre Dame wins 6 games this year, that would be crazy. But I don't know. Do they stack at the right positions? I think it's kind of hard to be stacked.
The schedule's in their favor, in my opinion, with who they play. I mean, A&M at home,
okay.
Purdue at home, at Arkansas, Boise State, NC State, and USC all at home.
Miami on the road.
I don't see them losing any home games.
Miami's Miami's the opening game. Sorry, apologies. You got Boston College, Navy, Pitt, Syracuse, Stanford in the season. Which I mean, they breeze through those games.
That sounds like 10 or 11 wins.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah.
I mean, the only one as a big question mark may be like A&M and Arkansas. Being at Arkansas maybe.
At Miami week 1, like if your quarterback's not fully ready to play, that could be a tricky one. But we know the fan base that watches.
Carson Beck be fully ready to play.
That's also, it could be just a weird.
He might be going through some girlfriend issues still at the time. So
he might not even be at Miami. Is he going to stay? Is that the hot topic of the week? Is he going to stay?
Where's he going to go? Back to Georgia?
Georgia Tech is what I heard. So no, here we go.
Notre Dame recruiting number 10 according to 24/7, number 9 in the composite. So they're recruiting with
Marcus Freeman's a great recruiter.
He is. He's a great recruiter and a great coach.
Yeah, they had the 12th ranked class in 2025, 10th in 2024, and if we just kind of go back the last 3 cycles, because I mean, he's had top 15 classes, okay, the past 3 years. So that is something where, in terms of Freeman, what he's been able to do, are you stacking up talent? Here comes the development part. Like, those guys are going to be developed into something. I think that's kind of the big key. 3, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Okay, here we go. Let's.
Who's next?
Who's next? I believe it's you, Ralph. Here we go.
Me.
So, Ralph, walk us through for the audio listeners who you got 1 through 10.
1, Georgia, 2, Ohio State, 3, Texas, 4, Penn State, 5, Notre Dame, 6, Oregon, 7, Clemson, 8, Alabama, 9, LSU, and 10, Tennessee. For my list, I told Bryce I didn't really want to number these in the first place. I just did not feel comfortable putting someone at 1. All these teams are great, but I don't think there's a clear-cut number 1 going into the season right now. Just for a lot of teams have lost so much and lost a lot of the talent that carried them last year. I'm just kind of curious about what goes on this year because Ohio State lost so much and their quarterback play is saying the guy. Georgia's Carson Beck's gone. You're moving on now. You're trusting Gunnar Stockton. Can he be the guy? I think he can. I think he's a good player. They always just reload every year. It's a new saying instead of rebuild, it's reload, and Georgia does that as well as anybody else does. Texas, it's Arch Manning season. They're all hyped about it. They're excited. They're bringing some good recruiting classes. They got a great coaching staff over there. Going to have an elite offense again. Good offensive line, good run game. They're a scary team going into this year.
Yeah.
Penn State, they return a lot too. They really do. And my question is, is can they win the big game during the regular season? Because they've struggled against Ohio State in years past when they have a chance to pretty much have a better chance of beating them on 1 year, and they can't beat them ever. So,
yeah.
Is it James Franklin's season to kind of like actually take him to the final level of make it to a next championship game? I don't know, but
Well, it kind of answers the question. Johnny says Penn State at 4. What does Ralph know that we don't?
Devontae Ross is there.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah, I know. I mean, they did give him some weapons, but defense is going to be better.
I'm not going to be much on Notre Dame because Will kind of hit on it. Lost a lot in the defensive level, but they still got a lot of people who played a lot last year with those injuries. So Notre Dame sitting at 5, they're easily a top 5 team to me this year. Oregon, you're replacing 2 of your best receivers, your quarterback. Is it Dante Moore? More than likely. So their defense is always going to be great under Dan Lanning. It's just what happens on the offense this year, because you think of Oregon, you always think of great offenses. In the past 2 years, you thought of Oregon as a good defense and a really good offense. So my question is, who's going to be the quarterback for them, and can he perform as well as Bo Nix for 2 years and Dylan Gabriel 1 year? So Clemson, look, Dabo's got a solid team this year. They are loaded, but it's a loaded team for this season. And I think they've got a chance to go to a deep run this year, probably possibly win the ACC, be a top 4 team going to the playoffs. So Clemson's a scary team to play this year, honestly, in my opinion. In Alabama, their defense is going to be really good. I have no idea who's going to play quarterback for them. Bryce sent a tweet earlier, Austin Mack's turning heads. Doesn't surprise me. Will's been high on Austin Mack. I agree. I just don't know who's playing quarterback at this point. We just don't know what they have, who's going to be the guy. Because Austin Mack can be really good and win the job and turn out to be just a dud out there in the regular season. And Ty Simpson can be really good in spring training or spring and go out and turn heads in the fall and win a job and be a dud. We don't know. I seriously have no idea. But they're still really good. They got a very good coaching staff. They bring in a new OC. I can't sleep on Alabama ever because just of who they are.
Yeah.
Bryce, I'm going to save LSU for you. You're better knowledge than that. Obviously, you bring back a senior quarterback, a guy who's been around the game for quite a while now. Mm-hmm. I think one of the best running backs in the country, who gets no love because he gets no carries because he has no toes. And a good receiving core this year out of the portal. I think so. The defense, though, it's just like, can it please be better? Please, for 1 year, just be better.
Well, there's a certain player not on the team anymore, Ralph, that I know you're going to miss
texting
me about during games.
I know. Tennessee at 10. I like Tennessee. I like Heupel. You lose your workhorse in Dylan Sampson, but you can replace him. I think you can with not just one person, but multiple people. I think they have a pretty loaded running back room this year, and they can kind of split the running backs pretty well with that. Nico's got a chance to go off this year if he can be the guy we think he can be, and that they say he is.
Yeah.
So, and Tennessee's always had a good defense, and they play a lot of games that. I mean, Nick, can he? I think he can. They say he can. Did we see it last year? No, Dylan Sampson carried last year.
Yeah.
But no one really expected him to preseason. So
yeah.
This is Nico's year. If Nico can't do it, I mean, I would not be. It wouldn't shock me, but I would be kind of disappointed. They've hyped him up so long for the last 3 years, ever since he was in high school, committed to Tennessee, that he was going to be the guy, the future, and everything. And I didn't see it last year, but I really hope to see it this year for them.
Yeah, I think he's good. I think that the expectations were so lofty, right? Like it felt like they were just kind of out of this world in terms of.
Well, they had 2 quarterbacks before him that were, you go.
Hooker was really good. Milton was all right. Like
Milton just had a big arm, you know, and then you saw him and you saw Nico in the bowl game against Iowa ball out, and that's where your expectation was. Can he do that for 12 games? And he really couldn't.
Yeah,
he showed it in some games, but he showed it, in some games he was like, what is going on?
Yeah. So. Yeah. No, I mean, I go back to, when they went and beat Oklahoma, Nico didn't have to be the prime person for them. They were able to win it every ways, like you talked about, and like Johnny asked here, like, can Nico carry the offense? You had Sampson, who was a really, really good running back last year, who helped you in that department, who steps up there. Because, look, there are very few quarterbacks that can go out there and just win games by themselves. The problem is Nico was touted as that. Like, that's the issue, is that the expectation was. But I like him. I like the fact that he's I like Tennessee there at 10 because, look, you've got money there. You're fresh off a playoff appearance. So it's like one of those things where, like, you haven't beaten Georgia and you're fresh off a disappointing playoff loss where a lot of people, including us included, kind of picked you to go beat Ohio State. I mean, we'll go on the record. Ralph called them soft. Hand up. Like, Ralph said Ohio State's soft and they won the title. But
Look,
that being said, yeah.
I said it after I was just completely wrong. I was an absolute idiot. So,
well, it is.
My thing to answer that question about Sampson, look, they got 3 running backs who are going to play this year. Peyton Lewis, who had time last year, he had about 45 carries last year. Deshaun Benson had about 30 carries, and you bring in Star Thomas from Duke, who had about 800 yards rushing last year. You got 3 guys who I think who could split that running back room and split those carries and just help out.
Yeah.
So it's not a Dylan Sampson loaded 25 plus carries a game. You have 3 guys that get maybe 8 to 12 carries a game, and they're going to be okay with that. It's going to be a workhorse loaded running back.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you there. All right, here's my top 10 programs entering 2025. For the audio listeners, I've got Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Michigan, Alabama, Oregon, Notre Dame, Clemson, Tennessee, and LSU. This is bad. This is very bad. Our intern misspelled Tennessee. So that's
Tennessee.
Can we go ahead and just out our graphic designer real quick?
Now, how do you mess up the last one? That's wild. Anyways, okay. So here's my top 10 once again: Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Michigan, Alabama, Oregon, Notre Dame, Clemson, Tennessee, and LSU. Maxwell, Ralph had him higher than me. So Ralph's not getting paid by anybody to do this. So it is what it is. All right. So Georgia for me, I mean, look, in terms of the past 3 to 5 years, they've won 2 titles. They have been kind of the standard of college football for the past 4 years in terms of how you want your program to be built. Yes, the 1%, which Georgia occupies, has been hurt by the portal. We kind of saw that. Their depth has been kind of taken away, although I think in terms of who they are, the job, the stability of the head coach, the way they recruit, I think Georgia's number 1. I think a close second's Ohio State, and you can honestly make the argument for Ohio State to be number 1 in this case. The Buckeyes finally get over the hump and win a title. We know pretty public that they spent over $20 million on that roster last year. They have the resources to be able to compete. Ryan Day is probably the biggest question mark, but then he answers resoundingly this year as they win a national title with the most talented roster in college football on paper entering the season. So that might be the biggest question mark for you. But in terms of program trajectory, I mean, I think Ohio State, really, it's kind of hard to be the head coach and not win 9 to 10 games a year there. Like, that's the kind of talent they're going to attract. Texas is 3 for me. I kind of think Texas is one of those. First off, Texas to me, I want to say this, is one of those places where, is one of those places where, how would I put this? For 10 years, guys, like during the 2010s, just kind of disappeared. Like, you knew who they were. They just weren't really relevant in terms of national championship contention. They'd have years where they beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl and Sam Ehlinger says, "We're back," that kind of stuff.
They couldn't even compete for the Big 12.
They didn't win a Big 12 title for a long. So it's one of those things where they really, but you knew who they were. You always knew they had money and they had facilities. So when NIL comes to fruition, and especially as we get into, this revenue sharing aspect of college football, I think Texas is well equipped as anybody. Like, in my opinion, I think Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, and Oregon, and probably Texas, Ohio State, and Oregon might be the most well equipped to master revenue sharing. I don't know much about Georgia's NIL to know that. So, but in terms of just paying guys, I can tell you Ohio State, Texas, and Oregon are very well equipped to do that. So I love the Longhorns. I love where they're set in that. I know, Will, you talked about Arch Manning. Is that the future of the position? we'll see what happens in 2025. But just in terms of if you could take over a program with the current climate of college football, Texas would not be a bad one to take over. Sarkisian is going to be interesting because I feel like there's some doubters and some haters in that sense. And I get the nitpickiness of it. Some big games they've kind of faltered last year, kind of feel like they backed their way into the semifinals. They were still there. It's back-to-back semifinal appearances, so it's impressive nonetheless. Michigan is a team that I had on here, fellas, that I know you guys didn't, and the reasoning is outside of probably Georgia and maybe Ohio State and Alabama, maybe those three. To me, Michigan has been one of the teams of the past 3 to 5 years that's been most consistent. Now, obviously, they lose Jim Harbaugh, so you have massive turnover in staff in terms of the philosophy. You still had some of the same guys there. But Sharon Moore, who is he going to be as a head coach? What will he be known as? As he gets his own roster in there, that's a fair assessment of what you want to do. But Will, in the same vein you talked about Bryce Underwood not going to LSU, you have your perceived generational talent at quarterback for the future in Bryce Underwood. So that's something in terms of recruiting, a massive win for Michigan to keep him in their backyard. Belleville, where he is from, is literally 25, 30 minutes from campus. So that is a massive, massive win for them. I think also with Michigan is even in a down year, they still beat Ohio State. They've beaten Ohio State 4 straight years now. That has to mean something in terms of that. I just think it's a program that is well equipped to do that. You go back to their national title run when they won it. There was a very public proclamation that they were going to really back NIL and they were really going to put forth to keep their veterans there and not let them go to the draft to pursue more money. And they backed it up and matched some of the values that those 3rd, 4th, 5th rounder guys would have gotten. And they stayed, obviously, high-level college football players and won a title with it. So Michigan's in that top 4 for me. I've got Alabama at 5. I put Alabama right in the middle here because recruiting at Alabama is going to be really good unless bad things happen. The financial backing and revenue sharing of Alabama is going to be very, very good. Kalen DeBoer is going to be the question mark. And I get that and I understand that. What they've done over the past 5 years, we all know that. There's no reason to go really deep into detail about it. But for Alabama in that sense, it's a program for me that is, for lack of better words, it's pretty not on a teetering point, but you got to kind of figure out what Kalen DeBoer is as a head coach at Alabama and pretty quickly. Like you've got to know that. So that's going to be interesting there as well. Oregon, I think Dan Lanning is a fantastic coach. They've obviously dropped some big games, but Oregon's going to be positioned as well as anybody, like I said, to pay top dollar for the top talent of the country. I think Lanning's a great coach. Can they develop that into actual playing? We'll see. Notre Dame is there at 7 for me. A lot of the same things that Will said on Notre Dame. I think that for me, it's more of can you replace it? And for Notre Dame to be able to continue what they had this year, are they on a trajectory to stay at that level, or do they drop back down to maybe tier 1B, which isn't bad. It's just not the top 5. Clemson is a constant inside this top 10. Not a lot you can say there. And then Tennessee at 9. The reason I have Tennessee over LSU, I will say this, is Tennessee made a playoff. And I think they were able to get to the playoff, get over that hump. That's something that LSU has not been able to do under Brian Kelly. Probably would not have done either. I think they probably wouldn't have done that either, even in the SEC championship year when they went back in 2022. So a lot of things to consider there. I got LSU at 10. Will talked about the NIL. It's something that up until this year had not really been organized very well. This offseason, they go out and spend. And they spend a lot of money, upwards of $15 to $20 million on this roster. So I've said this multiple times, like on radio shows throughout Baton Rouge. I've said this on our Go 24/7 podcast. If LSU doesn't hit this year, it's not going to be for lack of spending money. So fans can't say that, which is what they could say last year. So I think that just in terms of what they did on the offseason, we'll see if it works out, but they addressed a lot of the needs on paper, and I've said that a lot too. So LSU is going to be interesting for me. I tinkered with Ole Miss. Ole Miss probably has a higher floor than LSU has over the past couple of years. I wonder with Ole Miss is and he's done it, and so maybe I'm dumb for doubting Lane Kiffin. Can you find the quarterback again? That's going to be the biggest thing. Like, I think Simmons is good. It seems like Simmons is going to be pretty good, but is that going to happen again for you where you find another guy that can start for you multiple years like they did with Dart? like that had Corral before him. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I think Ole Miss was out there for me. Penn State was kind of in that top 12-ish range. But yeah, that's my top 10. Fellas, were there any schools we didn't talk about that could play their way into it with a good 2025? What does that look like for you? I mean, is there a program that you think is maybe, let's just say like they're 15th? Let's say they make the playoff this year and you're like, okay, like they're now one of my top 10 programs in college football in terms of everything we listed out, recruiting base, the head coach stability, I keep wanting to say facilities, the resources that they have to compete. Well, you're smiling. So do you want to say, I mean, I don't think it's as crazy as you maybe think it is, but you want to say what you want to say?
36 minutes and 2 seconds. Auburn. Because of the recruiting.
I had it ready. Don't worry.
Hugh Freeze, back-to-back years in the top 10, owning the state of Alabama. The recruiting base is there. Stability, but said it many times. Got to take that next step. Got to see it on the field, and getting more wins will thrust Auburn into that top 10, top 15, top 12 range.
I think what you said there, Auburn's recruiting efforts are there. Like you can't deny that. It's more of, if we go by those categories, the head coach, like is he going to prove to be Will, what do we say? We've said this one time. Like he's on average in his career an 8 wins a year head coach. That's who he is. Mm-hmm. If Auburn can make the jump to the level of an Ole Miss over the past couple of years, which is not far fetched. I mean, that's someone that they could do. Then that makes sense. I was thinking about this program. I wanted to get your thoughts on it because I'm going to the ACC here. I think Miami, in terms of the resources they have, is top 15 probably already. The head coaching situation is probably a question for some fans. It's probably not a question for other fans. I talked about resources. So the resources recruiting are there. To me, is Miami in the same boat as Auburn? Like they just need the results. Like they just need to go out there and win. They go 9-3 this year, regular season. They just miss out of the ACC title game after getting upset by Syracuse. I know people are going to laugh about it because it's just become a laughing stock or a joke at this point about Miami year over year. But it's like it's one of those programs. Like if they ever do get it right, you can't be surprised because it makes sense. And that's how a lot of people look at this kind of stuff. They're like, well, of course they did that because that's why they had money. So I think Miami's there for me. I think Florida's probably a top 25 program. They just got to win, much like the Hugh Freeze aspect. Is Napier going to be the guy? If they had a big season this year, maybe they are a top 15 program in the country. I was thinking about this. I don't know if there's a Big 12 program threatening this, to be honest with you. Because and the only reason I'll say this is because Kenny Dillingham has gone on the record and saying they don't have a ton of money. So in the resources category, they're going to have to get a lot of it until there's an influx of NIL opportunities there.
I'll say, BYU's in there if they can fix what happened to in the back half of the season. Kansas State, they didn't lose that much. They bring back a lot of talent offensively. They're one up there. I mean, Indiana, I know they're not Big 12, but they lost a lot, but they also returned a lot and brought in a lot. They're one of those teams you kind of like, keep your eye open for. I think after having such a shocking year last year, is there a can you do it again kind of question there for them? So, I mean.
When I think about the Big 12, I'm just sitting here thinking like, where's the money coming from?
I mean,
for any program,
also
TCU, Baylor,
yeah, but no, Houston.
I don't know.
Anything.
I don't know because, like you said, Dillingham said Arizona State they don't have a ton of money. We know Colorado doesn't have money. Dion's basically working for free.
I mean, if Oklahoma State didn't have such a massive drop-off, the level of consistency they've had under Mike Gundy, but they were just crazy. Gavin says Texas Tech, but the thing is like I was watching something today, the Cover 3 podcast, I was watching it, and they were talking about like Texas, like this is like a make-or-break year for them because they've gone all in. The schedule's pretty favorable on paper. But in terms of a program, like is Texas Tech I don't know if we know that.
I know they don't spend a lot of money because they don't win a lot football-wise. Well, Kansas.
Leipold's a
No.
good coach, even though they had a bad year. I mean, the fact
I'm not saying on the breaking the top 10, just of the NIL spending area.
I think I was reading something where I think the Big 12 is pretty even. Like I don't think there's a massive spender outside of Colorado, but they got the Saudis or something. We don't really know what's going on there. So back in that, I don't know. That's interesting. Gavin says Boise. Yeah, but I mean, I think you're going to see Boise. Like, was it just because of Genty? Like, how good is really that team outside of if you took Genty off the team, is that team winning more than 8 games?
No.
I don't know. Like I didn't watch enough of Boise to really look. Yeah.
The Mountain West was also really bad this year. Which is rare. It's usually pretty competitive, but it was not good this year. Boise was the only team.
According to On3, the 15th highest paid player in college football is Josh Hoover from TCU at $2.6 million.
Well, that I'm just going to tell you right now, those things are not real. So there has been multiple people on different coaching staff that have said, where in the world does that even come from? Like, where are you getting that? So there's that. Here's a good question. Johnny Reed said, who's the best G5 program? Who's the most well-positioned It's Tulane's there. Boise, you could have the conversation about Boise, just their level of consistency. Ralph's leaning over and saying Troy. Now, I will say this, Ralph, in terms of the past 3 to 5 years, Troy's definitely a top 10 G5 program. Not now, though.
It just stop losing coaches every 3 or 4 years. Be okay.
I actually lied about the Mountain West.
You liar.
UNLV won 11 games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Barry Odom got a new job out of him, and now there's Dan Mullen.
Who may be there for 2 years because they can't afford them for 5 years.
The Mountain West, you had Boise 7-0 in conference, UNLV 6-1, Colorado State 6-1, Fresno State 4-3, and then a bunch of 3-4, some 2-5s, and an 0-7. So very top heavy.
I mean,
when it's normally a pretty deep conference.
How good was Fresno State this year?
Fresno was 4-3 in conference and went 6-7.
See, to me, they're typically a 7-win team at least. Like they're typically pretty solid.
Well, they'll play up. They'll play a lot of the former Pac-12.
That's right.
Juggernaut.
Trying to think. I mean, Liberty's up there because they don't play anybody.
And they got money.
I wish Liberty. Yeah, Liberty has stupid money. I wish that Liberty would join the American. Like I don't know why that hasn't happened yet. But outside of Tulane and Liberty, like Tulane, Liberty, and Boise, that's the 3 that I've got in my mind right now. Memphis, maybe. I don't know what type of
they commit NIL to basketball.
Yeah. Ralph, any other Sunbelt programs? I mean, there really hasn't been that's the thing with the Sunbelt. There really hasn't been a consistent top dog. I mean, Troy went back to back, but outside of that, it's like there's so much turnover in terms of coaches getting poached. I don't think they can really. Yeah, there's no 4 or 5 year run.
And teams are really just kind of honestly scared to go have a long term coach to go be a great for 4 or 5 years because they get poached after 4 years. I say scared. It's not scary. It's not really scary. It's more like if we have a great 4-year run, our coach is gone in year 5 or after year 4. And they go to that Neil Brown 4-8 first year, and then won 10 games next year, 11 games next year, and 11 games or 10 games next season. It was poached by West Virginia, and then you're Chip Lindsey, and you just run a program to the ground. So, but you look at App State. App State they've been hit harder by anybody else when it comes to coaching. All their coaches go to SEC immediately. It feels like,
or ACC,
yes.
No, Arkansas State was harder.
Blake
Anderson. Blake Anderson went to Utah State.
Hugh Freeze. You had Gus Malzahn. You had Brian Harsin. All went to be head coaches.
Mm-hmm. Same program.
I outside of those,
look at them now.
Outside of those 3 schools, and I mean, I'll put it there here too. Like, God, if they were still G5, SMU would be there. I just don't know the longevity of SMU in the ACC. I think they can do it. Like, I think SMU. We talked about this last year, and people can clown us, whatever. SMU can be a top 6 team in the ACC consistently. Like I don't think that's got to be a massive feat for them to do. So, yeah.
My question is can South Florida be better this year? We had them. I had them, and I think everyone else did. Kind of had some sleeper team for the American Conference, and they really underperformed last year
Badly.
Probably because Will Mannis is the head coach there.
That's true. Will, per reports, is the head coach over there. Oh, Johnny says, what about UCF, Will? What do you think now that Gus isn't there? You think could UCF's got money? I just don't think they have money like it just depends. That's the problem with these G5 schools and like borderline P4 schools is that when you get to the Big 12 and you get to some of the American Conference, you don't really have programs that have lasting ability. And that's the big catch, right? Like SMU could do it because they've got so much money. Tulane has a lot of money in terms of that. Now they're actually investing. They got stadium, they've got facilities.
Well, they're getting, poached by the portal too. They don't have a quarterback going into this year.
Yeah, his name is
don't say it.
TJ Finley.
Good grief.
That's their quarterback though. That's who they're rolling with.
That's unbelievable.
He's 47, so I don't know. It's interesting. Top programs in college football. It's an interesting topic. I think that you can't go. You're going to see a lot of heavy SEC, heavy Big Ten. The West Coast is pretty dormant. We didn't even talk about USC, guys. I mean, that's a program that has money, but they have just been so out of the loop and out of the sphere that it kind of feels just kind of dead, I think, in terms of that. So I don't know. West Coast-wise, USC hurts there. I can't think outside of Oregon. I mean, who? Washington? I don't know. I mean,
Illinois.
Yeah, but what is it? But in terms of program, what have they done? Like, is Illinois a sleeper this year? Yes, Illinois is definitely the sleeper this year. If you're going to put money on a team, it's like that's where all the money's going to go in terms of like dark horse odds to make the playoff. But in terms of program stability, I mean, they've had to build up to this, but they don't have the resume into those top 10 or 15 teams we've talked. I mean, like, did they have a better case than Ole Miss? Like, I didn't put Ole Miss in my top 10. No, I don't think so. Do they have a better case than Penn State? I didn't have Penn State in my top 10. No, I don't think so. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it is interesting to look at because I think college football is starting to shift in terms of where you're not going to have as many dynasties. If any dynasties, you're going to have like these many, maybe 1 or 2 year runs. And so maybe that changes the parameters of the best college football programs. But I think in terms of how to weather it, we got the rankings as close as we could. So, yeah, there we go. And Utah used to be consistent. NIL's hurt them, and they had such a bad year. I mean, Will, you had Whittingham in your top 10 coaches this year and last year. So they've got a good coach, but they're probably close. They're probably top.
He's a little too loyal.
Yeah. They're probably.
Especially their quarterback.
Is he back?
Yeah, yes.
With them?
Pretty sure. I don't think he transferred, did he?
I don't know. I just can't wait to the August 1st premiere of Will's Get a Job, presented by Indeed segment.
I don't see him unless he's on the roster. I guess he did transfer, didn't he?
Where did Cam Rising transfer to? Well, he just was not on the roster in January, so he's just hanging out.
Floating around the pool,
just
dude.
Absolutely hanging out. So you got to love it. All right, fellas. Well, it was a fantastic time talking about this. That concludes our rankings here of the preseason. We'll be talking different topics across college football. Spring games, something I want to talk about soon. Deion Sanders says that he wants to have a OTAs type thing. Fran Brown says we'll meet you in Boulder. And other programs are saying we're not going to play anything at all. So I think it's definitely an interesting topic, especially after we saw when we talked about this last year, what Ole Miss did. So we'll talk about that in the next couple of days and other stuff as well. He is Will Mannis. My name is Bryce Koon, and that is Ralph Lear. We appreciate you tuning in and watching tonight's episode of The Crowded Booth. Thanks so much. We'll see you again.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.